the cove's promise. The wind, a familiar conspirator, carried the scent of salt and old memories through the narrow, cobbled streets. Alara pulled her shawl tighter, not against the chill, but against the ghost of a touch she hadn't felt in 15 years. This little seaside town was where she had lost him, and it was here every summer that she hoped to find him again. They had been children then, bound by a shared secret, a hidden cove where the waves whispered their names and the tide carved their initials into the sand. Liam, with his sun-bleached hair and a laugh that sounded like chimes, had been her entire world. They had promised to meet at that cove on his 18th birthday, a promise sealed with a chipped sea glass ring. But the sea is a fickle keeper of secrets, and life a relentless thief. A family emergency had taken Alara away, and by the time she returned, Liam was gone, his family having moved without a trace. Years turned into a decade and then some. Alara had tried to find him, searching through old school records and social media, but he had seemingly vanished. She built a life, a good one, but a part of her heart remained a barren beach, waiting for a tide that never came. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, she found herself at a small, cluttered antique shop, the kind that smelled of dust and forgotten stories. She was sifting through a box of old trinkets when her fingers brushed against something cold and smooth. It was a ring made of sea glass, chipped at the edges. Her breath caught in her throat. She looked up, her eyes wide, and saw a man standing behind the counter. He had silver at his temples and a few more lines around his eyes, but she would know that laugh anywhere. He was holding a small polished stone, tracing the initials carved into it with his thumb. "You found it," he said, his voice a little deeper, a little rougher, but the warmth was still there. Alara couldn't speak. The 15 years of silence, the unspoken questions, the loneliness, all of it coalesced into a single, overwhelming moment. He smiled, a familiar, heartbreaking smile. "I left it here hoping one day you'd find it." It was silly, I know, but I had to try. Tears welled in her eyes as she finally found her voice. I came back every summer. I always came back to the cove." Liam's smile softened. "I know. I saw you. I just didn't know how to approach you. I thought you had moved on." She held up the sea glass ring, the light from the setting sun catching its fractured surface. "I never did. I couldn't." He stepped from behind the counter, a chasm of time and distance closing with each stride. He took her hand, his touch just as she remembered it. A little rough, a little warm, and entirely home. He didn't say anything, just led her out of the shop and towards the setting sun. As they walked, hand in hand, towards the old familiar cove, Alara felt the barren beach in her heart begin to fill. The tide was finally coming in, bringing with it not just the promise of a new tomorrow, but the precious, long-lost yesterday she had been waiting for all along.